Just gonna put something on. So today was a very interesting day today, but glory be to Yah who answers prayers. So I'm just gonna do 10-minute wait. Maybe we'll do a 10-minute wait today. Maybe not. But I wanted to go over some information. Probably not today because what happened. We had a little delay, but I'm gonna talk about something. But we're gonna do a little wait.
Pharaoh. The angel came to him in it and asked him to read. The prophet replied, I do not know how to read. The angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and asked me to read. And I replied, I do not know how to read. Whereupon he caught me again and pressed me a second time until I could not bear it anymore. Then he released me and asked me again to read. But again I replied, I do not know how to read. Or, what shall I read? Thereupon he caught me for the third time and pressed me and then released me and said, read in the name of your Lord, who has created all that exists. He has created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is most generous, up to that which he knew not. Then Muhammad returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, cover me, cover me. They covered him till his fear is over. And then he said, oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me? Then he told her everything that had happened and said, I fear that something may happen to me. Khadijah said, never, but have the glad tidings. For by Allah, Allah will never disgrace you, as you keep good relations with your kin and kith. Speak the truth, help the poor and the destitute. Serve your guests generously, and assist the deserving, calamity afflicted ones. Khadijah then accompanied him to her cousin Waraqah bin Nawfal bin Asad bin Abdul Uzza, long name, who during the pre-Islamic period became a Christian and used to write the writing with Hebrew letters. He would write from the gospel in Hebrew as much as Allah wished him to write. He was an old man and had lost his weight. Khadijah said to Waraqah, listen to the story of your nephew, O my cousin. Waraqah said, O my nephew, what have you seen? Allah's apostle described whatever he had seen. Waraqah said, this is the same one who keeps the secrets, Angel Gabriel, whom Allah has sent to Moses. I wish I were young and could live up to the time where your people would turn you out. Muhammad asked, will they drive me out? Waraqah replied in the affirmative and said, anyone, man, who came with something similar to what you have brought was treated with hostility. And if I should remain alive till the day when you will be turned out, then I would support you strongly. But after a few days, Waraqah died, and the divine inspiration was also paused for a while. And the prophet became so sad, as we have heard, that he intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains. And every time he went up to the top of a mountain in order to throw himself down, Gabriel would appear before him and say, O Muhammad, you are indeed Allah's apostle of truth. Whereupon his heart will become quiet and he will calm down and will return home. And whenever the period of the coming of the inspiration used to become long, he would do as well. But when he used to reach the top of a mountain, Gabriel would appear before him and say to him what he has said before. There are a number of slight variations in the story, related by different people, describing Muhammad's visitation by a spirit, identifying himself as the angel Gabriel. These stories do not always agree with each other in perfect detail, but on the whole, a complete picture can be drawn of Muhammad's initial experience with the spirit and his reactions after. And that's what I just presented. From this encounter, Muslims believe that Allah, through the Archangel Gabriel, gave the collection of revelations to Muhammad that are now preferred as the Islamic scriptures.
All right, Shalom, family. As always, at the 10-minute mark, we're going to say the Lord's Prayer. So bow with me as we say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, honored be thy name. May thy kingdom come. May thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us on the righteous path, and guard us from the evil one. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, amen, family, amen, amen. I just had to, with kids, you gotta keep it moving, gotta keep moving, gotta keep doing things for the sake of understanding. All right, shalom, family, shalom, shalom. So, interesting day. I just want to give praises to the Lord. I just want to give all the praises to the Lord. I just want to remind you, family. I just want to remind you. Just looking at, sometimes my voice can get kind of loud, so I don't want it to echo too much for the sake of understanding. But I just want to remind you, family, that God answers prayers. He answers prayers. I just want to remind you that never forget to pray. Never forget. Always go to the Lord first before you go to anything else. Pray, give the Lord the chance to be heard, right? Let the Lord hear you, and just give him time so that he can work with you for the sake of understanding. So just understand some things can be fast, some things can be slow, but just have faith in the Lord. So always remember that, to pray. Remember, it is a communication that you're making. You're not just sending it into the air, you're sending it to the Lord. So for the sake of understanding, I just want to say that. But amen. Shalom, brothers. Do you have anything you want to say real fast? Brother Jeremiah or Leo?
No, not really.
Amen. 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 So I wanted to show something today. Now, what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to go over a note. And the reason why I think this is important is because if we don't know what's going on around us, we may miss certain important prophecies. And I think it's important for us to know certain things that's going on around us. Now, I've been going through this for a while because I think actual truth is important, right? Let's just think of it like this. Let's say we was going to make a movie of the Romans, right? We all are familiar with the Romans. We know what the Romans are. But let's say I cast a full cast, and every single person, not another extra person, but every single person was one race, and that race was the color black, which many people call black for the sake of understanding. What if I had a cast of Romans that were black? And then what if I was to start to say that this is historical accuracy? Now, we as familiar with these things as we are, we know what the Romans look like. We got a couple different pictures, there's different ways of seeing them, different things like that. Now, what I want to do is give a clear picture of what was known in history of a certain group of people that was known as Gog and Magog. See, a lot of people, when we think of Gog and Magog, we think it's a mystery, but it wasn't a mystery. In ancient times, it was actually well known. If we look in the Bible, you notice that they will say, like, the Egyptians are the sons of Ham. Notice that they remember that. Notice that they actually remember them as the sons of Ham. I just want to go to a certain thing here because I think it's important we understand something. So sometimes in history, sometimes names can change. What I want to do today is actually show a demonstration of that. But I want to link you to the truth. This is why I want to link you to the truth, because before I show you this, I just want to remind the brothers and sisters, whether we will remember or if it's your first time seeing this, I'm just going to go down to something. So I finally figured out how to work this thing. I can actually click these and it just goes to the next picture. Going. Making sure I don't freeze or nothing. Actually, I should turn this, close this. For some reason, YouTube behaves strangely. It behaves strangely. But I want to go do something here because I think it's important that we look at certain things, reminders of certain things. I'm just going to go down and find it. I'm just going to go up Very important. This little chart here, I'm just going to go up a little bit. And I want to show you something. When we talk about DNA studies, which we're not going to talk about, we're going to talk about something a little more better, because DNA studies is one thing, is modern. We can't get certain information with DNA studies no matter how much we try. No matter how much we do it, we can only get certain things. But one thing we do know for sure with DNA studies, we can find people that are closely related. It's just a famous thing. People find family that way. We know that that's a true thing. We know people can find family that way. I want to show you that they actually know by taking, because what's the problem with a lot of the DNA studies is that when we get certain groups that are very related, a lot of times that's not brought out. Like ancient groups of old time. A lot of times that's not brought out. But we actually know that many people actually know about a certain DNA strand. Now, I'm not going to talk about, we already talked about this connection. I just want to talk about a certain strand here that is not, it's not denied. It's not denied. RM17 chromosome. There's a Y chromosome that's known in the Ashkenazi Jew, right? Let's just look at that. Let's just look at it because I want to show you that family tree, because there is actually a known family tree for it. The reason why I want to show you that is because we have to ask ourselves a question. When, ask yourself this, when does it show a mass group of Jews actually mixing with Europeans? Now understand this, ask yourself that. Only reason I want you to ask yourself that, because it's going to bring you to the understanding of why it would be the same concept of someone taking a bunch of Africans and making them cast as Romans. That's fairness, right? It's just fairness. That's all that I'm going to say. The reason why is because if we go through actual evidence, what we'll find is that the scriptures actually shows us that the Jews looked like Egyptians. Now understand this. We can take many precepts. We can take it when they say Paul looks like an Egyptian. We also have scientific facts that we know the Egyptians got darker over time. We also had different facts that also show that Moses looked like an Egyptian. Now, the reason why these are important, because once you see what's going on, you're going to realize that many people who talk about Illuminati almost as if it's a mystery, it's not a mystery. It's not actually a mystery. It's actually very clear. But it takes a little education, and this is all it's going to be. It's not going to be me giving any answers, but what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to go straight through and I just want to show you the historical things. But the first thing today I want to show you is name connection, and I'm going to show you that after I show you this physical thing for the sake of understanding. The reason why I want to show you this is because if you like history, and I like history, I really do. I think history is very interesting. It's one of those things that when I was in school, I didn't like at first, but I grew to like history as I more read the Bible, and I've seen how different characters in the Bible, like the Assyrians, the Persians, the Medes, all those was all in the Bible, and they were actually real people. Then I seen Egyptian history, right? We started a lot of excavations that had happened. They found a lot of different images, a lot of different finds, such as some of the paintings on their walls, some of the art on their walls, for the sake of understanding. This one was really interesting. This one was one of the tombs that they just recently find, but what made it really interesting is that this specific tomb was from Ramses II. This is the same Ramses during the time when Moses led Egypt. And it led pretty much the people out of Egypt, for the sake of understanding. The reason why I want to talk about it is because, remember, it said that Moses looked Egyptian. Now, it's important to understand, we got to figure out when and what point of time did the Hebrews mixed. It's very important to understand that, because if every time we see a description that says they looked like they were Egyptian, we also have to see what the Egyptians actually looked like, physically looked like. And that will give us a clear indication of what we're actually looking at, right? Because we went through this many times where we have some of the people of Egypt, and then we've seen how we have also Ramses himself, and seen how some pictures show the whitewashing. We also have Ramses' wife, right? Which is also Ramses III mother, which this is Ramses III, for the sake of understanding. So we were just looking at some of those pictures, and we just realized that, it's important that we understand what they actually look like, right? Because we want to know what happened. And the reason why we want to figure out what happened is because I want you to see this. This is a family tree of certain DNAs. Now, once you can hear, you'll see European, you'll see British. And just take my word for it. You can take someone who also knows a little bit about this, right? I just want to show you. I just want to show you something real fast because I think it's important that we know certain information, such as things like this, for the sake of understanding. But let me actually go up here. I want to go back up here before I show you these names, because I want to show you this little video first, just to show that this is not something that people don't know. This is actually things that people just don't talk about. It can be one of those things that many people don't want to talk about, but I'm going to show you something at 12:25. I'm going to show you pretty much a conversation that's said here that I think is very important at 12:25. So I'm going to let that play, and we're going to talk about it. So we'll go to 12:25 here. So this is just, he was talking. It's a person that's coming out. He's talking about the genetic research and everything.
So one of the more exciting subjects I have found is the study of the seminal people, the Jews. Judaism, after all, maintains in part its tribal roots. It's
I'm going to go
various massacres back down to 20,000.
Up here.
Period that the core of Jewish ancestry was formed.
All right, so I want you to see what he's going to say here. I think it's very important. You can see a little bit where it's coming from and whatnot. And then it just talks about this person right here. He's basically having a discussion, right? And watch what he says here. Now, what he's going to talk about here is, I have to show you this. The reason why I want to show you this is because these things are known. But you can see here, this is that study where I was talking about the mother's line and everything. You'll get the understanding here.
Female DNA, this is interesting. I have a startling statement to make, which may be that none of you here who are Ashkenazi Jews may be under the laws of Israel Jewish. That is true by DNA, and this is going to present some fascinating theological problems. The reality of it is that most of female DNA that they've done testing of traces back to European populations. Whether they were pagan or Christian, it's not clear, but they almost certainly were not Semitic. There is a sizable percentage of DNA on the female side that does trace back to the Middle East, but the majority of it traces back to Europe and seems to indicate that the pattern of Jewish communities, Ashkenazi Jewish communities, was traders or middlemen, nobility aides, whatever, either brought up by the aristocracy or who wandered there because there was a sense of opportunity during brief periods of openness, and they took on local wives. Now, if they went through a formal conversion process, and that's your genetic line, you are Jewish under Israeli law. If they didn't, if they just took a local woman as their wife and that local woman was pagan or Christian, they didn't go through a formal conversion process. If the rabbis of Israel find out about it, you have a little bit of a problem. The reality of it is that most of us today who are Ashkenazi are probably the descendant of a Semitic Jewish male and either a convert or a Christian or pagan who didn't convert, but quickly was assimilated into the small but soon growing Jewish community, raised their children as Jews, but if you ultimately trace it back, they're not so Jewish.
So, did you hear that? I just want you to understand something. Do you see how he said, what did he just confirm? He just confirmed that through their mother, they are European, right? Through the mother's line. Do you know that he also tried to do something that wasn't confirmed? He tried to confirm that the father's line was Semitic. Do you know that that's not true? In fact, this is looking at the father's line. The reason why this is here is because I want you to see this, right? This is the European line, the Britain, stuff like that. You also can see that some of the Arab was kind of mixed in with it too, for the sake of understanding, which we actually know, because if you actually do a little research on the original Arabs, you'll find out that they were actually darker skinned. That's actually well known because where they came from, for the sake of understanding. And also some other things that was actually written in history, which is fairly known today. But for the sake of understanding, the more lighter skinned ones, we know because they're more related. And what you're going to see here is that when you look at the history, you're going to understand that, of course, they're related. Of course, they're related because the conversion is recorded and the migration is also recorded. Understand it, that all these things were known, and they were known as being of Japheth. As you can see, this is the line. This would be the line of Japheth. Now, understand, this would be like you'll see. We'll look at. Let's go up a little bit just to understand what I'm talking about. I have my sons touching this laptop. It's kind of, the mouse always gets kind of messed up with them. But let me go up and let's look at something here. I want to show you something because I think this is very important. I think this information is very important. Maybe they don't feel like it's important, right? Because is it fair if we put the wrong people in the land? Understand this. We have to understand that this information is very, very important. Because if we don't look at this information, they're going to say whatever they want to say. Understand this, that this information is well known, and amongst themselves, they talk about this. As you saw, there was a lot of them amongst themselves. They're more comfortable about talking about these things amongst themselves. But look at this. This is the line that we're looking at here. Gomer. Now, this is different. It will be a little different. That's why they say they're a little different than the normal European, because the normal European, the line will come from Javan. In fact, look at the Hebrew word for Greek. I want to show you something. I just want to go to something here. I want to show you this. Just to show you that we're not just making stuff up. I'm going to go to, and it may seem like it's controversial, but honestly, the controversy is true. That's what we just have to understand, that though it seems controversial, it's just that some people may not know as much on it, and it may seem like it's controversial, but it's not. It's more of like, why aren't we talking about this? Why are we not talking about this? Because this is actually well known today. But let's go to Zechariah 9 and 13. I just want to show you this. I think it's important to see some things sometimes at a root. And let's go to 13. All right. So look what it says here. Watch what it says here, and you'll understand what I'm going to say here. In fact, I'm going to say it first, and then I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to show you it in the Hebrew, and you're going to understand it, and I'm going to say it again. First, I'm going to say this to you. The Lord has bent his people to himself. A lot of his people were destroyed, but we also see that this had happened because he raised up Israel, which is going to be a darker skinned people, against the sons of Japheth, which would be a lighter skinned people, which we actually would see today. We've seen a kind of a racial war kind of going on. But we also see in the end, we'll all stand as strong men for the sake of understanding. But let's see this. Let's look at this in the international version. Watch what it says here. Let's look at this and let's see the Hebrew. What I want you to see here is what it says right here, right? It just talks about, for I have bent Judah, basically that would mean to myself, and the bow fitted with Ephraim, and raise up your sons, Zion, against your sons, Grisha, right? Now let's look at what is said here. Let's click this word, Yavain. What is Yavain? Y, understand this, the Y is commonly changed to a J. Makes a little more sense when you understand it like that, right? Because if we go back, let's just go back and look at that family tree. Javan. See what it says right there? And that's a different line, and this is another line. Understand, Gomer, it has a different prophecy to Gomer than a prophecy to Javan. There's a different prophecy to Gomer than Javan, for the sake of understanding. Gomer united with Gog and Magog, and that's what you're going to see in the history. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see that they were known being together. It's very important to understand that these things are mysteries, right? In fact, I'm going to show you some quotes from Flavius Josephus and some other historians about how they knew that Gog and Magog actually converted. They converted for the sake of understanding. But as you can see, this is a prophecy, right? I didn't mean to close that. But as you can see, this is a prophecy for the sake of understanding. Let me actually see if I can reopen it. Recently closed tabs. I think sometimes they have it on there. Recently closed tabs. There you go. All right. Just want that to stay there. So this is the information that I want to show you, because I want you to know that we aren't just saying stuff. We're actually knowing what is truth and what is a lie. It's important to have to look at this not just as a and these things I feel like we should talk about. I should talk about it because when we look up ancient images and certain things like that, we can actually find a lot. That's kind of big. But for the sake of understanding, let's look at something. The reason why I want you to see all this and understand this is because we things. You have to consider these, put them into effect. Because if we just look at them, don't put them into effect, then what are we doing? I mean, be holding true in this, right? It's very important to understand. Again, a delay. I hope that no one lag for the sake of understanding. Just making sure I'm getting kind of a delay over here. See what I'm saying here? It's stuff like this known, and you got to think about prophecy, right? Let's go back a little bit. Let's go evident to this. We're evident to this. If we understand this, people not know this, that ever the Lord has passed, has come to pass, right? Our challenge there. We're trying to make Israel against the sons of Javan. Understanding. But let us not continue in for the sake of understanding that we are here only to bring truth to all people. As we know, all people can receive salvation. But Zechariah, when was Zechariah written? After the temple fell. It was after the temple fell. Explaining what's going to happen in the end. He was explaining what was going to happen in the end. Also see in Zechariah 14, he talks about that the temple would fall again. So these
It's lagging a lot.
things were actually prophesying of the time we're in right now. For the sake of Judah to himself. Tell his head is doing a little lag. Let me actually plug it. Let me plug it in. I'm gonna put it in there. So instead of using Wi-Fi, all right. Just gonna plug it in. All right. Should be a little better now. A little better now, I'm hoping. No lag, I'm guessing. Yes, it's not dragging anymore. Shalom, family. See how everyone's doing. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for the sake of understanding. So you see what we're bringing out is stuff that's known. These things are well known. It's stuff that we also have to consider. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go down. I'm going to show you a name study. The reason why this is important is because tomorrow you're going to see these names. You're going to see these names, but if you don't know these names, they may fly past you. For the sake of understanding, actually put that right there. All right, let's look at something. Let me not get too loud because sometimes I see it be echoing. But let's go down. So you see why they had an error saying they had to have a Jewish mother. So look at that. They kind of put a sword to themselves by saying that you have to have a Jewish mother when weren't even Jewish. But in all due respect to all who is brothers or sisters in the faith, for the sake of understanding, because we know sometimes you may have a relative that may be of such and such and such and such. But for the sake of understanding, this is not for insulting people, but this is for bringing the truth. This is all about providing the truth. That's all that it is. Because we always try to keep it family friendly. We don't like to debate and curse and fight and do all those things. But let me actually go to something on this note. I want to show you something on this note. We're going to look at this note tomorrow. We're going to go over this note in a nice slow pace. But first, I want you to see one thing on this note for the sake of understanding. I'm going to use the arrow because I think it moves too fast for me. I just want to show you something on this note, which is very important, I think. I think it's very important to know some of these names for the sake of understanding. So I'm going to play this, and we're going to talk about it for the sake of understanding. So I'm going to start at 38 and 39. I'm going to let it load in, and I'm going to show you this. And this little thing, when you see it, this brother he did very well. I think he did very well explaining some of these finds. You're going to see he has all his things. I had checked and made sure like most of his stuff was indeed things I can find for the sake of understanding, as a lot of the books that he had I was familiar with, besides some of the books that he had found that was not something I was too familiar with. So I made sure I looked up some of these books, some of his sources, because as we have to understand that sources, cite your sources. It's always good to cite your sources for the sake of understanding. But I'm a little bit, actually put part 2 up here. I just want to make sure I'm looking at it. Okay. All right. We're going to go and check this out. So I'm going to go to, I actually forgot what number that was.
38.
38? 39. All right. Amen. All right.
All right. You say it's only. All right, we're in this book now. Let me just zoom in. It says The Khazars in Annotated Bibliography by Bernard D. Wainwright. This is in Studies in Bibliography and Book Lore.
Let me refresh
Volume
it
11,
because
number 1.
I don't like how that looks. I feel like it might crash. I would leave it like just playing because it's mostly talking, but it's good to see it too. All right. Let's wait till that little thing go. All right.
Idols of the Gentiles, Hellenes or Greeks.
All right.
The Greeks are black, right? We saw Medicine Man's video. The ancient Greeks were black. All right, so even Japhet was black. It wasn't always about white. All right, this he did during the days of Assyrian power. He had 7 sons whose descendants occupied the Isles of the Gentiles, Hellenes or Greeks, an area including Asia Minor and Upper Greece. All right, that's Japhet right there. All right, you say it's only. All right, we're in this book now. Let me just zoom in. It says The Khazars in Annotated Bibliography by Bernard D. Wainwright. This is in Studies in Bibliography and Book Lore, Volume 11, number 1 and 2. All right, from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. All right, and this is the article we're going to read. It says this bibliography is based on the same principles as its predecessor, which appeared more than a decade ago. The annotations of the items are designed to indicate similar angles, such as the beginning and destruction of the Khazar state, eventual continuation after the 10th century conversion, problems of migration westward, and the origin of Eastern European Jewry. But this time, the emphasis is also on several additional angles, such as the visibility or lack of it in Jewish sources of the connection between the Khazars and Judaism or Jews. The application of the history of the Khazars to today's political purposes and its combination with anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, or anti-Israeli tendencies. The first of these angles is already found in Josephus' genealogical table, 9th or 10th century, which depicts the Khazars as descendants of Togarma, a grandson of Noah's son Japhet. Alright, so let's go back to that table we had earlier. Alright, so Togarma, right? Togarma right here. Alright, Togarma. The Khazars come out of this person, it says. Supposedly, the Khazars, Togarma, from Gomer, and Japhet. Alright. without mentioning that they, at least some of them, had any connection with Judaism. It is carried over into later centuries, for examples by two 12th century Jewish travelers, Benjamin of Tudela and Petachia of Riesenberg. Bibliography, and as the number says, and Ishak Abramanel, commentary of Ezekiel, chapter 38, which by implication counts the Khazars among the people who will come with GOG to fight the Jews in the land of Israel and perish there. You see that? They will come with GOG. The Khazars, man, these Confederate. Who's the Khazars? See why they ain't mentioning the Khazars or want to be connected to these Khazars? Alright? Among the people who will come with GOG to fight the Jews in the land of Israel and perish there. This, written in 1493, indicates that he regards the Khazars as anti-Jewish Gentiles. And then right here got a couple of sources. It says here by Marcus Nathan Adler, the Itinerary of Benjamin of Tudela, says the southern provinces of Russia were spoken of as the land of the Khazars, especially by Jewish writers long after the Russian conquest about the year 1000, and the Crimea was known to European travelers as Khazaria. Alright? On this side it says Naji Alush Al-Masira ila Palestine, says the journey to Palestine, 1964, says there were 10 million Jewish Khazars. Thus the Jews of Eastern Europe, who were the most Zionistic, did not originate in the kingdom of Judah and were not Semites. It says here by Menachem Melander, Ben Solomon Halevi. Alright, it says first edition Yiddish Amsterdam 1741. Then it says new edition translation into Hebrew by Haim Homer Jerusalem 1964. I don't remember the quoting sources here. It says Jehuda Halevi translated the Sefer HaKusari from the Khazar language. According to Arab authors, Khazar or Khazar, right, was the son of Japhet, or a descendant of Japhet, the son of Noah. Khazar separated from his brothers after they left the ark, and he came to the river Volga, building a large city there, which he called Al-Khazar. These people who lived on the north side of the Caspian Sea are also called Khazars, since they joined the Khazar nation. At first, the Khazar king Al-Nagari explained to him that this is not the real Judaism. He then comes to Judaism and because of our
You see that? Interference. Let's keep going.
over 100,000 people.
I wonder how that's possible. That's something. Parents on refresh. I can say
Khazar nation. At first, Khazar king, the form of Nagari, explained to him that this is not the real Judaism. He then converted to traditional Judaism, and according to the team, Judaism. You see that? They converts. Alright? I've got another source here that says
do a force reset real fast or restart.
All right, we got another.
Um, and,
All right, family. So that was interesting, very interesting. I'm leave it on the Ethernet cord, but that was very interesting. I thought that was very interesting. Let me just pull up this note again, for the sake of understanding. I know you can get interference like that. Okay. Okay. Just making sure everything should be fine. I'm thinking. Let's keep going. Now I want to show you this. I want to show you this because it's two part, but everything is historical. Everything that you're saying. Um, as you see, that video is going to get very detailed. Some actual findings, affirmation, very, very deep. Let's just see if we can find it in the history. Let's go. Let's see if it'll play. Which it should. It should.
Judaism, to Rabbi Judah al-Nagari, not Judaism. He then converted to traditional Judaism, and according to the teachings of our rabbis, over 1,000 people converted to. We got another source here that says Baraz GM Dreineshiv Erisko Kasaruski. You got a very long name. Alright, the Old Popruso. Alright, that's Russian. Right there again. It says collected works on the problem of the Jewish element in the monuments of Old Russian literature, Volume 1. It's from 1927, and it says, insofar as the Slavic nations, especially the Bulgars, were influenced by the Old Testament, it was through the Jewish Khazars. Alright, Slavic nations, Jewish Khazars, the converts, the original legal code which was enforced in another source here says Julian Bartosewicz Studia Historicini Literati, or Historical Literary Studies, Volume 2. Right, the Huns. The Khazar state was multi-tribal, speaking a language which resembled that of the Volga Bulgars. From what? From Islam. From what? From Islam. Alright, you see the relation? You see where the relation's going, right? Confederate, you see what's going on here, right? We're going to get deeper into this as the videos go.
I want you to hear that. That's available.
State was multi-tribal, speaking a language which resembled that of the Volga Bulgars. The religion of rulers was Judaism. Alright, see the relation? You see where the relation's going, right? Confederate, you see what's going on here, right? We're going to get deeper into this as the videos go. Alright? Alright, another here says SARS, Mercury de France. Alright? Pages 39 and 70. The case racial origin and the geographic position of their capital seems to hear John O. Betty, The Iron Curtain Over America, Dallas 1951, chapters 3 and 4. Russia and the Khazars, and the Khazars joined the Democratic Party. Program of drastic control. So repugnant to the free Westerners to accept authoritarian dictation on everything from their immorality to their trade practices. He also states that
Understand what it's saying there?
back.
You heard what I just said? Now, remember, we went over the Talmud, right? We just went over that. We understand that the Bible, has nothing to do with the Talmud. It's got all types of blasphemy against things that are righteous. And it's from the Khazars, right? But remember, what we're going to do, I'm telling you, what we're going to do, I'm going to bring you history tomorrow. Y'all willing? We're going to go to the whole foundation. And be lagging for the sake of because we are on what you would call it into the end of understanding.
Or ideology are in high positions.
And remember, these are a great brother had touched on the actual findings of what the Inquisition actually describes what the Israelites look like. Right here, you're seeing the Khazars. We can follow these delays today, but I just want to show you an example of what we're going to go through tomorrow. Is actual history, and you're going to see it from the ground up. It's being painted, and you're going to understand. Yes, these are the same people because you're going to see the connection. You're going to see the connection here because
and France. All right, it says here from G-Shock or G-Shock Ben Sevi. All right, so from Tel Aviv, from on, it took over the commerce between the Slav and the Khazars, upon both of whom they exerted some influence. But it was the Persian Jews, again, who was the officials to convert to Judaism. In 732 or 740, the military first
see that combination for that year, combination 740. We also agree to the same year because it's a massive people. This is a massive conversion. There's a massive event that had happened there, which, for the sake of understanding, just for truth, let me open up some of these notes because some of them didn't open because we had a little restart. On if I ever talk about this, I'm just gonna put this note on there. And it'll have all three of these notes on there. And the reason why all three of these notes are important, like it goes over leprosy and different imagery for leprosy and certain things like that. It goes over some things, and then is just more direct to just some old on the whole history. This one's just modern.
we'll continue on this live tomorrow. Y'all willing? Having technical issues. So everybody be blessed. End the stream.